So thank you for the introductions. So today, everybody, I'm going to be reviewing On-Command Insight and specifically review its capabilities around advanced performance management and infrastructure analytics. Before I get into On-Command Insight, it's important to address what are the challenges in terms of performance management and risk mitigation. Of course, the business has requirements out there, and generally the business is looking at IT as a competitive differentiator to meet some of these business requirements. Things along improving time to market. I want to beat the other guy to market with our services or product. Maximize uptime, of course. Optimizing my infrastructure, and then reducing cost, whether that's around CapEx or OpEx reduction for the environment. Now, the operational or technical teams generally have challenges around this if they don't have the proper tooling and processes in place to support these requirements. Some of these challenges are along the lines of disparate device managers, so element managers in the I/O path. If I'm supporting an application and need to do performance management and analytics related to that application, I can have many tools between that application down through the host, through the fabric or the network, and down through the storage with different KPIs and different interfaces to manage. Also, we have shared infrastructure that we have to have managed. How do we isolate the key components for a particular application and related services and do our analytics on that front and management? And then lack of correlation, seeing that I have multiple different tools in place. Now I have a manual effort. Most IT organizations I go speak with are using spreadsheets, they're using video diagrams, and all these are very manually done. They're time-consuming, they're error-prone because they are manual, and so there's better ways out there to go address these challenges if you have the right solutions and processes in place. So we introduced something like On-Command Insight for infrastructure analytics. On-Command Insight is an agentless, read-only, out-of-band infrastructure analytics tool. It's very scalable. It's multi-protocol and multi-vendor as well. So if you look here on the left, under the multi-vendor, we've had a lot of success, not only in the NetApp front, with the data fabric supporting our ONTAP platforms, E-Series, SolidFire, even Cloud ONTAP, but we also support a lot of heterogeneous multi-vendor solutions that are out there, whether we're talking the storage stack, EMC, Hitachi, HP, IBM, Pure, a lot of different vendors supported on that at that layer, also at the switching and at the host or hypervisor layer. So being able to leverage our broad and deep support matrix to go out and discover these infrastructures, provide end-to-end visibility to get away from this manual correlation effort, provide business insights. So using On-Command Insight's annotation capabilities and tagging the infrastructure with metadata tags around what are the application services using my infrastructure, what are the tiers of service being utilized, and so forth. And then providing intelligent operations, providing means to be more proactive, defining policies for monitoring and alerting before you're getting that phone call. Identifying greedy and degraded resources in the environment, in the shared infrastructure, and isolating those bottlenecks, what's creating that contention. Provide proper workload placement. Provide the intelligence when you're doing migrations to properly move your workloads to the right place, do load balancing exercises, and then detecting abnormal behavior with our anomaly detection capabilities. Everything that I'm talking about today is available via some of our extensible options, like standard options being SNMP, SMTP, and syslog. We also have a REST API. The information on Command Insight is very valuable and can be leveraged in different tool sets within the ecosystem. So whether you have a CMDB initiative, you need to populate storage CIs, you need to help something from a proactive monitoring, alerting, you want to feed this information into a monitoring framework, something like maybe HP's OpenView. If you're looking to feed information into a ticketing system like ServiceNow, On-Command Insight can also facilitate those integrations to help achieve other goals within the IT organization. Before I get into the actual performance piece of On-Command Insight, I really want to quickly touch upon the fact that On-Command Insight is a modular solution. Therefore, there's 5 modules. Today I'm going to be focusing our efforts around Discover and Perform. Discover being the base module required to do that end-to-end discovery and correlation. And then we're going to be talking about performance, being able to collect performance end-to-end, and I'm going to go into more use cases on that front in subsequent slides and via a short demo. Just note that we have 3 other modules associated with the solution: Assure, Perform, and Plan, or Assure, Plan, and Host Utilization Pack. While I'm not going to be discussing these today, it's important for you to note them in case you want to revisit these subjects, these modules at a later date. Assure is really more SAN focused, so if you have a SAN footprint, it might be something that you want to look into. It helps around risk mitigation, understanding and doing pathing analysis, making sure you have redundant serviceable paths in the environment, doing change auditing, and then also helps you do some simulations within the environment to help with change management windows. Plan is our federated data warehouse for long-term retention of all the data that we do collect with On-Command Insight. It also has a business intelligence front end based off Cognos, so you can publish reports to focus around asset management, capacity planning, performance trends. Maybe you want to get into some sort of chargeback initiative or identification of orphan resources. There's a lot of use cases within Plan. And then last but not least, Host Utilization Pack. Using WMI and SSH hooks on supported hosting platforms, we can collect host file system utilization information and correlate that back to the underlying storage that's been provided from the storage infrastructure. So with that being said, I'm going to move into the top 5 reasons why OCI excels over other storage performance management alternatives that are out there. Starting off with number 5 here is providing that end-to-end visibility and automatic correlation. This type of capability is invaluable, so you're not having to spend hours pulling up different element managers and manually inspect and maybe pulling out Visio and Excel to combine some of these data sets. On-Command Insight's doing all this for you. Right now I'm looking at an Italian Air VM. It's a VM that we have in one of our labs. We have a landing page summarizing capacity and performance data related to this VM, some of the performance policies defined, and then you get into the supporting infrastructure. So I have a VM here, I have my ESX, I have a Brocade switch and a VMAX storage array on the back end. So I'm able to correlate this infrastructure and then get additional details about the underlying infrastructure supporting this particular VM, whether it's top correlated devices such as the supporting ESX and 2 supporting LUNs for this particular VM, pulling out some correlation data in terms of how related this object is to that VM and associated performance, and related metrics that are available. Now these metrics will vary depending on what objects I'm doing my analysis on. Right now I've got things around latency, IOPS, and throughput showing, and you can see I've got historical data points to leverage if I need to go back in time and evaluate trends or evaluate a historical issue in the environment. As I scroll down the page, I'll also get more asset information related to this VM. You can see the VM decay, the data stores, the storage resources, 2 LUNs supporting this VM related to capacity and performance metrics, connected fabric switch ports for this particular VM, and then some violations. So cataloging these violations so I can proactively monitor that environment and go out and do troubleshooting as necessary when I do have issues. Now, how are we going out and proactively identifying these issues? Well, that brings us to number 4, and that's being proactive. Define performance policies to mitigate risks in the environment. These policies can be aligned with defined thresholds, where discomfort is introduced in the environment, or it might be aligned with the SLO or SLA you're trying to achieve. And this policy window that's up right now, you can see I can select from the objects stacked in the I/O path and start defining policies. So whether I'm looking at data from the storage infrastructure, something from the fabric, maybe I'm looking at something at the host layer, but I define what objects I want to define a policy against. I can group these objects via annotations or metadata tags. So maybe it's a tier, maybe it's a service level I'm trying to achieve. And then you can define your rules for these policies down below. You can define 1 or multiple rules, and in terms of the rules, I can define situations where I want all conditions to be met before I generate a violation, or I can set a policy to say if any of these rules are met, generate a violation. Once these violation or policies are defined, you can capture the violation data. We can be proactive in terms of alerting standpoint, using some of those the SNMP, SMTP, syslog, and REST API capabilities I was alluding to earlier. We also have our own internal auditing capability and tracking capability within OCI. So this is a violations dashboard. I can track how many violations I'm seeing by policy in the environment. I can also track these violations over time and see how I'm reducing the noise in the environment. Where am I removing my slow drain devices, removing memory issues where leading to swap conditions at disk, maybe removing latency on the storage level. Maybe I have node utilization issues. But tracking all these, removing them from the environment, cataloging them below in the violations table, so you can go drill down and do analytics on these as you need. So getting into number 3, how do I expedite the troubleshooting process and mean time to repair? One way to do that is to use OnCommand Insight's correlative analytics capabilities. So going in here, there's lots of ways that you can find out that you have an issue in the environment with OnCommand Insight. Maybe you have the policies defined and it's integrated with your ticketing system. You have closed loop incident management in place. So the ticket was open and now you're getting engaged. Maybe you're getting a phone call. Whatever the case might be, being able to get alerted proactively that there is an issue in the environment. In this case, we have an issue with VM Exchange 1. I want to learn more about this issue. Well, VM Exchange 1 is running latent. We can see from the top graph here that over the last 6 hours it's been experiencing some latency. And the blue down below, we've had fairly consistent I/O from this VM. You can also see a top correlated infrastructure here. It's calling out LUN01 and storage pool 2. So we've added this to the graph. That's the orange line, and you can see its I/O characteristics have been pretty steady as well. However, it too is experiencing latency. So we need to figure out the reason why. So I'm going to go take a look at the LUN in question, drill down, and find out more information. Very quickly, OnCommand Insight is telling you that you have a greedy resource out there that's creating contention in the environment. This greedy resource is LUN01 that belongs in a different pool, SP1, on the same node on the same array. And you can see from the greedy information that we're publishing here that it's telling us that the IOPS activity on this greedy LUN on the order of 95%, or there's a 95% relationship between the IOPS activity on this LUN and the latency we're seeing on our degraded LUN. So classic victim bully type scenario. So we've isolated where our greedy resource is, why we have contention, and why our VM is running slow. However, it also helped to know who's driving that I/O activity. Who's the top talker in the hosting infrastructure that's driving this I/O. When we drill down and look at our greedy LUN, it's telling us that VMCS TravBook, in fact, running a different application, a travel booking application, is the one that's contributing to the I/O. And so very quickly, I've isolated where I'm getting contention in the environment that's causing the latency on my Exchange application, and I've also quickly isolated what application is and associated host is driving this contention in the environment. So now I can go out and address this in a timely manner. NetApp IT, when they first introduced this solution to their IT infrastructure 2 years ago, within the first 3 months, they were actually able to reduce having to run perf stats by 66%. And a large part because of this data was always available to them, and they could go in and troubleshoot and quickly isolate where their issues are. Furthermore, they're also able to use this information to help load balance the infrastructure. Another piece or capability that we have with OnCommand Insight is exposing risks before they become problems with anomaly detection. So this is relatively new capability within OCI, but being able to, based off an application level, do some machine learning and workload profiling and understand when a particular application's workload has changed and how is that going to impact performance. So in this case, I have a SAP application. It's reporting a fairly high score of 83. If I go down through the I/O stack supporting my SAP application, I can see compute resources. I have some storage node information, my flex balls, and storage pools. And the number of blue bars is the most significant on my storage nodes. And the reason being, we're detecting the most amount of change from a workload profile for for this storage node, specifically my storage node 15 on this device. And it's saying that there's been a significant increase in total IOPS coming through this node. So now you can map this data, this change data, to the correlative analytics capabilities of OnCommand Insight, so you can understand how change is impacting your environment. Also, so very useful for planning purposes. It might not even constitute a threshold breach in the environment, but you are noting a change in IO profile, and you want to make sure that you have the correct supporting resources in place, and you're not going to be running contention as that IO increases for that workload. So very powerful stuff. Last but not least here, talking about the ability, there's different ways to consume information. When you think about the amount of information that you have related to one application can have up to 1,000 objects and related metrics associated with it in its IO path. So how do you find the information that you need quickly to effectively manage the environment and do analytics, troubleshooting, what have you? Well, we introduced a query language not too far back that enables just that. So being able to generate queries, save these queries off for useful information that you need to manage the infrastructure, troubleshoot the infrastructure. Maybe you want to use it to help annotate the environment. And last but not least, being able to use it to help create customized dashboards that can be used by operators so they can quickly understand what's going on in the environment and drill down and do analysis as needed. So this is an example screenshot of a dashboard view or a query. Creating the query, you can see I've selected VMDK. In this example, I have IOPS total. So I'm looking for VMDKs that are reporting higher than 50 IOs per second. I want to look for VMDKs that are greater than 25 gigs in size, and then also those that are experiencing more than 10 milliseconds of latency. These data sets are easy to save off. I can use these queries whenever I see fit. Enables me to export these as I need. If I want to do a quick report, dump it to a CSV and share this data with somebody else, I can easily do that. I can then also use it to publish dashboards. This is an example dashboard going in, and this is a storage operations dashboard looking at node utilization, looking at disk utilization versus IOPS, and storage pool capacity. All this is derived using our query engine and taking that data and populating it into a dashboard. Or maybe I want to focus more on the host side, so creating a dashboard view around host CPU utilization for my ESX servers, host memory versus CPU utilization, and VM IOPS versus latency. Get into some of my top talker analysis here. But very easy to create these things, makes it very useful to consume this and publish the information for the broader teams to consume as needed when managing the environment. So I'm going to move on into a quick demonstration here. So let me change screens. I'm going to keep this rather brief. So if you like what you're seeing today, I encourage you guys to follow up with us, and we can give you a more in-depth demo, possibly cover some of those other modules I was talking about. But in terms of the OnCommand Insight UI, we're looking at it here. This is a demo environment that we have. This is an assets dashboard that was created using our widget library. Now, I'm going to go out and show you really quick how we can go out and define a query. I'm going to do something very simple. I'm going to go look for anomaly scores in the environment. And I'm going to go look at things from the last 24 hours. You can see I have all my applications defined, application priority if I have any business entities associated with these applications, and some anomaly scores here. And I want to look for anything that has a score higher than 50, something that's of significance in the environment. I do have one application out here, travel booking, that is reporting a fairly high score of 96, so that's important. Maybe I want to go look at all data sets. Okay, that's important information. Over the last 7 days, or all my data points here, I've got 3 that are reporting over 50, and so I want to save this off. So I'll go off, I'll save this information off, or save this query off so I can use as I see fit. I should note I do have the ability to customize my column views here, and then I should note I already have this saved off. There's quite a few queries in here. This is the application anomaly score over 50%. Maybe I want to go look at aggregates that are over 50% utilized. I can go use that. We have one saved off. But point being, you can save off these queries, use them to quickly understand what's going on in the environment and identify information quickly. I can also then use in my dashboards, I'll go create a new dashboard. I'm going to add a widget here. I'm going to go use my query-based widgets that are available to me. After it allows me to select the query window. And then I'm going to go add my widget. And I'm going to go define what I want to see here. I want to go look at any anomaly scores over 50. I'm going to go select, I'll leave my columns the way they are. I'm going to sort this by anomaly score, descending, and I'm going to go look over the last 7 days. And I'm going to save this off. I have my first dashboard view created. It took me just a couple of minutes, and now I have very useful information to detect change in my environment. Now, since I was looking at the last 24 hours of my initial query, it was pointing out travel bookings. So I'm going to just start there, show you how this works a little bit in the active UI. And you can see I have my application travel booking. It's reporting a high score of 96, as I've already noted. I've got my interactive topology infrastructure here relating my ESX, my Brocade, and a cluster that we have, a NetApp cluster that we have. The I/O stack is depicted here. You can see I have compute resource information for VM cStor. It's reporting that for the VM, we have a very significant increase in total IOPS. It's scored at 91. Going through, there is some storage node information here. So we do have a little, an increase in utilization, some IOPS and latency information that's important to note. And then I get into my LUNs and my flex falls down below. All these I can add a little graphical icon if I want to add to my analysis down below. Right now I'm looking at latency and IOPS. If I want to add maybe cStor, I can do that. Maybe I want to go take a look at one of my flex falls. I can do that. And I also maybe I want to add that node to my analysis. And I've added node utilization. So what's interesting here is when my node utilization spiked in the environment, that's when I'm seeing IOPS spike in the environment. And I also now am seeing latency. So this node utilization parameter or metric is very important to my analysis. But also very important is I'm looking at VM cStor. VM cStor is reporting a memory condition out there. Well, that's important. Let me go take a look at VM cStor. It's already part of my analysis. And if I want to go take a look at that, I can take a look at memory utilization, and maybe I want to go take a look at swap. All right, well, because of a change in I/O profile related to this VM, I've now, it looks like, run out of RAM on the box. You can see I've pegged RAM, and now I'm swapping to disk. And that's all related to the node utilization, the heavy IOP activity I'm seeing on the array side, and the latency that's been introduced in the environment. So this is just the start of the analysis process, but I already have a wealth of information at my fingertips for this analysis. And then I can continue on, similar to like I was doing on the slides, and start breaking down my analytics and do what are my top correlated, finding the greedy and degraded. In this case, I'd find some degraded workloads in the environment. So with that being said, I think On-Command Insight provides a lot of value in terms of effectively managing performance across the end-to-end infrastructure, and also can help on the analytical front. And with that being said, I will pass this back off so we can do some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Great information and great insights. And we'll just switch it back to the Q&A side. At this time, I will open it up for questions. As a reminder, if you have questions about today's session, please post them to the questions pane. First question, how is OCI licensed?
OCI is licensed by discovered raw terabytes. So we can discover arrays by the storage data sources that we have. These data sources will vary by platform. But it's licensed by raw terabytes discovered, and then it is modular like I mentioned. So discover is required, but you can select which additional modules you would like to run that addresses your use case needs.
Excellent. Next question. How long is the performance data retained?
The performance data is retained out of the box within the UI for 7 days. We typically extend that out to 14 days. Beyond that, out of the operational UI, if in fact you would like the data retained longer, that's something that we can work with you on and properly size the servers and go through the caveats associated with the analytical process. Might take a little bit longer to process data points, but that is one of the reasons why we also have the plan module. So if you need a long-term repository for this data and you want to keep it longer than those 2 weeks, we can dump that data into the data warehouse. It's there for your needs, and you can do trending on performance, workload analysis, what have you. And that data in the data warehouse is there left indefinitely. There is a roll-up schedule associated with it.
Excellent, thank you. We'll squeeze one more question in. You mentioned on command, but here's a good one. How does OCI compare to NetApp on command?
To on command Unified Manager, if you can pass this screen back to me, I'll show off a slide real quick to help out with the answer on that one.
You bet. Just give me a moment. You should have it now.
Great, thank you. Everybody should be seeing my screen now. Let me just reverse this so I can get the full view. And so, yes, so on-command Insight fits within the on-command portfolio. As you can see from the graphical depiction up above, Unified Manager and on-command Performance Manager, which in future releases will be pretty much one and the same, really services your CDOT infrastructure. When we go look at something like on-command Insight, it's looking at the broader end-to-end picture. So it includes CDOT and includes the heterogeneous storage stack along with the other NetApp devices that are supported, Brocade and Cisco, the hypervisor or the hosting layer, and then we can start getting into mapping business context information in there. So the graphic, the table down below depicts the differences between these solutions really quickly. On-command Insight is going to support pretty much the NetApp portfolio, whereas Unified Manager on-command Performance Manager is focused on CDOT. Being able to do that end-to-end correlation is a strength of OCI. Being able to provide the business level contacts and application performance views is within OCI. Being able to define tiers and policies. Doing that contention analysis and machine learning capability, all of those are unique to OCI. And then when it comes to multi-dimensional performance thresholding, there is some partial support in Unified Manager for this. On-command Insight does support it. And then when we get deep into the CDOT platform, there's going to be specific things that Unified Manager is developed to do that on-command Insight does not support today. Some of those things are some of the deep level metrics that you might want. Maybe they're specific performance protocol details that you're looking for, memory paging, CPU wait times, things like that. Maybe you want to leverage some of the dynamic learn thresholding for LUN volume and aggregate details. And then, of course, you have the element manager capabilities of Unified Manager, which are very specific to that device, and hence why you'll be better served using Unified Manager to serve some of those device management needs. So hopefully that effectively answers that question.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Joe. That actually concludes the Q&A